Citizens speak out as people across the world gather to call for improved living conditions for themselves and their families, along with political reforms that would bring greater respect for human rights and other social freedoms. Their voices can be heard in countries such as Bahrain, Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast, Egypt, Honduras, Jordan, Libya, Morocco, Syria and Yemen.
Yemeni President Abdullah Saleh made a fresh offer to protesters that he would remain in office until new elections, but would meanwhile transition presidential powers to a caretaker government. However, protesters returned to the streets on Wednesday, March 30th, calling for him to step down immediately. In the United Kingdom, where 500,000 people marched last Saturday in protest of austerity measures, the Chief Inspector of Constabulary, Sir Denis O'Connor, added his concern, saying that the police forces face a big challenge through the proposed cuts, which will likely reduce the ability of frontline personnel to protect citizens and uphold the law.
In the face of extensive questioning from the Kuwaiti parliament over recent incidents of international diplomacy, the nation's entire cabinet resigned on Thursday, saying that the Emir, Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmad al-Jabbar al-Sabah, may select a new government that he feels is suitable to the public interest.
Press TV reports that Bahraini security forces have expanded their repression of the protesters by going into villages surrounding the capital and using live ammunition, resulting in the death of 15-year-old Syed Ahmed Wednesday. In response to the government's deployment of foreign troops to stop the protesters, the Iranian parliament on Thursday called for Saudi Arabia to remove her forces from Bahrain to avoid further complications and encourage restored tranquility to the region.
In the Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast, forces loyal to Alassane Ouattara, recognized internationally as the legitimate winner of the November 2010 elections, overtook the administrative capital of Yamoussoukro Wednesday. The UN Security Council also unanimously voted in more sanctions against incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo, while calling for him to step down.
On Thursday, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad ordered the Supreme Judicial Council to form a committee to probe the deaths of both civilians and military personnel in the Daraa and Latakia protesters' turmoil.
He also announced the creation of a legal committee that has been given until April 25th to study and draft legislation that preserves national security while it considers lifting the country's 48-year-old emergency law.
Following reports on Wednesday that Libyan Foreign Minister Moussa Koussa had defected to the United Kingdom, it was reported Thursday that Ali Abdulsalam Cheki, recently appointed as the new Libyan UN envoy, has also fled to Egypt, stating it is the right of the nation to live in freedom and democracy. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister David Cameron and Foreign Secretary William Hague encouraged others with close ties to Colonel Muammar Gaddafi to defect, as Libya's Deputy UN Ambassador Ibrahim Dabashi stated that he expected more senior officials in the Libyan government to leave soon, explaining that many were finding it challenging due to tight government security in Libya. Joining the coalition to help in addressing Libya's troubles is the United Arab Emirates, as Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan spoke about the type of help being offered, saying that his country is opposed to arming the revolutionaries with weapons.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen also affirmed that the NATO-led coalition role is to protect the Libyan people, not arm them.
Meanwhile, a new satellite television channel, Al-Rah TV, is being set up by pro-democracy Libyan journalists with the help of the Qatari government. Human Rights Watch reported meanwhile that Libyan forces have planted landmines on the outskirts of Ajdabiya, which were discovered when a utility truck drove over and detonated two, although fortunately there were no injuries.
Palestinians and Arab Israelis marched in various locations Wednesday, calling for an end to Israeli occupation of Palestine, as well as Palestinian reunification on the occasion of Land Day. Hamas leaders, meanwhile, expressed their willingness to advance national reconciliation by inviting Fatah leader and Palestinian National Authority President Mahmoud Abbas for a visit to Gaza. United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon also called on Wednesday for Israel to end the Palestinian territories' occupation, which began in 1967, stating it is morally and politically unsustainable, and to halt all aggression against Palestinians. President Abbas also stated that if peace negotiations do not restart with Israel, he will ask the UN to recognize Palestine as an independent state in September.
As we sorrow for the loss of precious lives, we pray for a ceasing of the conflict and that people in all nations may choose to live side by side in safety, freedom, dignity and peace.
In sorrowful response to these unfortunate world events, Supreme Master Ching Hai lovingly reminds, "If the road is wrong, the more we walk on it, the more we go wrong. Any leaders who committed harm to others should stop at once, sincerely repent to God, and act to redeem their mistaken deeds. Then they will be pardoned. Even if humans can't forgive, heaven will.